White House just read the Sarah Sanders statement from the White House. Here it is again. We condemn the attempted violent attacks recently made against President Obama, President Clinton, Secretary Clinton, other public figures. These terrorizing acts are despicable, and anyone responsible will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. The United States Secret Service and other law enforcement agencies are investigating and will take all appropriate actions to protect anyone threatened by these cowards. I want to bring in Michael Balboni, former New York State Homeland Security Director. Sir, thank you for your time. We're trying to sort through what we think we know so far. What is your impression about what you've learned about the post office finding this first?
So the concern about the post office is that a lot of people don't know this, but the post office does not screen for explosives. They have biological weapon screening capabilities, but they really don't screen for explosives, which means you got to pick it up from other sources to prevent it, like the Secret Service or routine screening that an individual, high-profile individual might do. The second aspect, though, is that because there will be stamps on the package, you might have a road map to where the individual tried to mail these things. The information I'm receiving about the device is that they were crude, but was real. This was not a phony. These were not phony devices. Obviously, they didn't detonate. There'll be questions about their functionality. I've also heard some descriptions about the functionality not quite being what you needed to do to detonate these things. But each time, Bill, that you have these types of devices, it's a signature. The way they were put together, the material that they were constructed out of, the timing, all these things are very important to lead investigators back to who might have sent these things.
Obviously, that's important considering we're learning about these devices just one day after the bomb was found in George Soros's mailbox. So you're suggesting that they'll be able to look at these devices and potentially tie together, if there is a tie, to who did these and who made these and potentially put them in place. That being said, it's tough to try to decipher between the different authorities that are releasing information on this. What we know at this point, the Secret Service in their statement called these potential explosive devices, suspicious packages certainly, but then according to U.S. officials via the AP, they are calling these functional explosive devices. Were they indeed explosive devices then, is what you're confirming?
My information is that they were in fact functional. They didn't work, they didn't detonate because of a particular flaw that was in the design of it. When they put it together, that's information that's going to continue coming and will obviously be the focus of investigators. But you know, this takes us back and obviously reminds us of the Ted Kaczynski attack that lasted from 1978 to 1995. And obviously he used the mail as the delivery system for his devices. But he was ultimately found, but after a very, very long period of time, which indicates that the investigation could go on a while. This might not be something that within the next day or so we're going to see it. The other thing that you should pay attention to is that the sources that they're talking to me say this could be something which is wider spread. In other words, these three packages.
Michael, on that note, I want to get some breaking news in here now because we can report now that the CNN bureau in New York City has been evacuated. That's all we know on that. The Time Warner Center, by the way, we were also told has been evacuated in recent moments. Those two things are happening right now as we continue to learn more, Michael.
So as I was on my way to the studio here, the New York City Police Bomb Squad was on its way to Time Warner Center. I saw the vehicles going with lights and sirens. So, you know, if it's media outlets and it's individuals of high profile, then obviously this is a concerted effort to do a wide-based distribution of these devices.
All right. How would you know, based on your experience, how would somebody working at the post office find this?
It would be by the box itself. In other words, it looked like a suspicious package. But as I said before, you know, the post office is not screened for explosives. Many people believe that they do, but they don't. But if you had a box, you know, typically what happens is, you know, if there's a wire sticking out or depending upon what type of device or what type of material is used, there could be some type of oil that seeps through the package. These are typical indicators that that a package might contain a device. And it is when you do mail screening, these are some of the signs that you look for when you take the package into the facility.
Michael, what does the investigation look like? Would you be able to give us an idea of what's happening at this moment as we now learn, and to report again, CNN studios in New York City evacuated, Time Warner Center has been evacuated, 2 explosive devices have been found, one at the home of former President Barack Obama in Washington, one at the New York, suburban New York home in Chappaqua, Bill and Hillary Clinton. Neither of these devices, we should confirm, were received by the Obamas or the Clintons, but Secret Service is saying that a full-scope criminal investigation is now being leveraged. They're using federal, state, local resources to determine what they can here. But what does that investigation look like at this moment?
So obviously right now, when you have a suspected package, you want to secure the facility. You want to make sure that that package is rendered safe. And then that's why you'll have the bomb teams that will go to a large facility like the Time Warner Center, which has really great security, same with the other facility. But what they're doing is, since it's the initial concerns, as you all know, we've been doing this a long time, you and I, this has been, these facts will change over time and we'll get more information. So we need to know which packages were delivered by mail, which might have been placed. You know, Ted Kaczynski, getting back to that case, he actually placed some of the devices personally because he was trying to avoid detection. But what the investigators are going to do first is the obvious: go talk to the mailman, go talk to the Postal Service, try to get a timeline for when that package, when that delivery came. How did it get to the facility? What truck was it in? What type of stamps were on it? And then try to trace it back to where it might have come, and then obviously who might have deposited within the post office box. Today's Postal Service is a lot different than years ago. With all the cameras out there, you can actually tell when someone went and possibly put it into the delivery system. So those are the types of things they're going to do right now. And then, of course, you know, as soon as they find any type of origination, then they're going to blanket that area and try to see who saw someone walk in with a package looking like this. So that's what we're now going to see pictures probably of the package itself to try to see if we can get other people to sit there and say, yeah, I saw that, and this was the time I saw it. And
Mike, you're terrific.